Hello, hello, hello. This is Overlord Bo back with another information video. And today we're going to be going over the 14.3 balance changes, but more specifically on the significant changes to the Delny line and to the Grozavoy line with the Ognavoy. An SAT score is here to help me go over those changes.
Okay. If you want to take a look at the changes for yourself, I would go to the Wargaming devblog changes because there is a lot of changes they're making to ships here. Not just the Soviet tech tree destroyers, but also other ships. Anyways, this video will focus specifically on the Delny line and Ognavoy.
Mm-hmm.
So, per the devblog, Soviet destroyers have evolved a lot since their initial release, including the addition of the sub-branch culminating in Grozavoy, and the replacement of the Tier 10 ship of the original branch with Delny.
Mm-hmm.
With the following changes, we aim to address some issues compiled over the years, make the style of the ships more flexible, and increase the viability of alternative builds. So first, they want to improve the comfort and usability of the main armament and torpedoes of these ships, allowing for a smoother overall gameplay, and especially the transition to the Grozoroy sub-branch, if that's the path that appeals more. Furthermore, they've introduced changes to the consumable sets of the main branch. Here, the improvement to Smoke Generator is aimed at supporting the skirmish and positional gameplay style incentivized by the smoke. Starting with Kiev and up, the destroyers get further improved version of Smoke Generator, allowing for more competitive alternate build options to the highly sought after Repair Party. And speaking of Repair Party, they've also extended its availability to the lower ships of the branch, allowing players the ability to experiment and try out both and select their preferred playstyle, or perhaps opt for going after the Grozovy sub-branch to have both.
So are they making
And
it where the Kiev, Tashkent, and Delny get a smoke and a heal? Or is it more they get one or the other?
so with the Kiev and up, a lot of players were choosing Repair Party over the smoke. But Wargaming is trying to make the smoke option more appealing, so they buffed the smoke consumable. I don't. It didn't look like they touched the heals at all.
Okay, I was just curious.
Okay, and then finally, they want to address some inconsistency with the progression among the branches, mainly Ognavoy.
Mm-hmm.
And Ognavoy is to tier 8 of the Grozavoy sub-branch. I'll actually go over that in a little bit. But first, I'm going to cover the low to mid-tier destroyers. Uh, the specific changes is toward the torpedoes. For the low tier torps, normally they have 4 kilometers range and a pretty fast reload. But Wargaming has buffed the range from 4 to 5 kilometers. And then for the mid-tier destroyers, they've increased the torp range from 4 to 6. When you get up to the Minsk, the tier 7, it goes up to 7 kilometers. The
Okay.
reload time has also been adjusted, but honestly, that's not really that important. And then the other part of these changes is the differences, the addition of the repair party. So it's not. So keep in mind the repair party is put in the same slot as the smoke generator.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, the Delny branch is now the main branch. If you want to say play the tier 6 Gnevny, you can choose to either run the repair party or the smoke generator. You cannot run both at the same time.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
hmm So as Wargaming said, it allows players that are trying out this gunboat branch to see, hey, I could go with a open water run and gun kind of play style, or I can try out the more positional sit and smoke and farm for free kind of play style.
Mm-hmm.
Both can be pretty good under the right circumstances. And in fact, I think I would actually take smoke at the mid tiers just because there is not as much radar running around. Remember, tier 7 radar is locked behind specific premium ships, and it's not until tier 8 that you start running into a lot more radar. So I could see smoke being more powerful, but I do like the addition of the repair party because it's something I know a lot of people do like the run and gun playstyle, and that allows players to at least experiment with that playstyle at the mid tiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really nice with the smoke, like you were saying, for the mid tiers. But at the higher tiers, there is a lot more radar, like being a lot more painful. Also, smoke being option for higher tiers as well, like a better option with how many secondary ships like the Libertar running around is. It definitely
Hmm.
helps out with the like. I'm glad they're finally doing something with the Delny line because it's kind of been that underdog class for a while where they haven't really been messed with that much over the years. So it's kind of nice that they're finally revamping the Delny. And hopefully they do the same thing with Grozavoy as well in the future. But Grozavoy also
Yeah.
does well. It's just an underdog kind of not very much touched line, but the Grozavoy line itself is still really good. Like it's still a fun line to play. It's just not as recommended as other lines.
It's a great starter line, but definitely it feels kind of dated when you compare it to newer lines.
Mm-hmm.
For example, G-Dance, like you see G-Dance running around because they have radar just blap out other destroyers.
Yeah, exactly.
Delny, like the Delny line still retains what makes a gunboat good, but it's just not really flashy a lot of the time. It's literally just I go sit at range, I shoot at you, and then occasionally heal up when I need to. It's not very exciting, and not very exciting compared to uh, many other tech tree lines you can try out. I think that's one major reason that people don't like it. It doesn't help that it's an old line. It was the third or fourth line. I think it's the third line released after the U.S. and the Japanese destroyers. And upon release, Khabarovsk is actually considered super overpowered, and it took a couple of nerfs until Khabarovsk was finally gotten under control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
So
that
anyway,
uh that armor on the Kaaba back then was really potent.
hmm if you played WoWs back in the day, Khabarovsk was an absolute monster. Like, oh my gosh, you could actually mount range mod on it, and you literally could not touch it. While it just rained down constant HE shells at you until you just died. Like it was, like I think that was one of the main like basically people were screaming Russian bias, and whenever they did, they would point to Khabarovsk. And you know what? They were kind of right at the time, at least. Anyways, Khabarovsk did get several nerfs, and right now she is a shadow of her former self. Like, her rudder is essentially broken, and it was so bad that Working had to buffer in a couple different ways. But anyways, that's kind of getting off topic, since Khabarovsk wasn't touched by this patch.
Mm-hmm.
So, going back to, so I finished up with the mid tiers. They get, to summarize, they get access to repair party, and for several of these ships, they also get turret traverse buffed, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, that is really nice.
hmm So now let's start. Now let's talk about the Kiev and up. So Kiev herself, main battery turret traverse, they rotates faster. The stock torpedoes I don't care much because it's not upgraded. But the smoke generator change is pretty interesting though. It has an action time of 30 seconds, and then the smoke dispersion's 100. I'll double check, but I think it's mostly the smoke lay time, the first value, the 30 seconds one, that's actually undergone a significant change.
So in port with no flags, the base stats of the smoke is 20 seconds and it's 89 seconds. So they're buffing it by 10 seconds for the action time and 11 seconds for the dispersion time.
Okay. So essentially 10% longer smoke.
Mm-hmm.
I think that actually puts it in a unique category. The base smoke, so normally Russian destroyers use the generic smoke that most nations have access to. 30 seconds is the same as the US smoke and the Pan-Asian smoke.
That
But
is that
100
is a very
seconds.
long smoke lane time.
Mm-hmm. Uh, yep. So it's kind of a unique it has a long lay time and a slightly longer lasting duration. So that helps a lot when you're dealing with the secondary ships that are currently in you see a lot in high tiers, especially the Libertad. If you're running heals, then it's kind of painful to deal with secondary ships. They can literally run at you and just completely ignore you while you shoot back and basically get out traded by AI. But with smoke, if they try the same thing, you can stay at range and farm them for damage. And either they have to YOLO charge you to point blank, in which you can just torp them, or they run away or they're forced to retreat. So this is a pretty welcome. An extra 10% on the smoke lay time and the smoke duration is a pretty welcome change, and I feel like it's a good way to distinguish it from from other gunboat lines, mainly split.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
do. I
because
do like these changes a lot for the Soviet destroyer lines. They've been needing a change for a while, or like a buff to them. So I do like the fact that Wargame is going back at the older lines that they're kind of forgotten about lines. So it is nice that they're finally doing that after all these years.
yep. Tashkent Tashkent still has the 10-kilometer torpedoes. Also gets the same smoke generator improvement, and most importantly, the rudder shift actually got buffed heavily. The upgraded hull goes from 6.1 seconds to 5 seconds on rudder shift time,
That's really
which is
good.
super nice.
Yeah, that's really good.
So it's a buff to both to the heal oriented playstyle and the smoke playstyle. Delny Delny didn't see much change, only the smoke generator got buffed. And then finally Zorky, same thing. The smoke generator got buffed. That's it. I guess Wargaming thinks they're in a decent-ish position and don't need that much help.
Yeah, the Delny is seen a lot more than like Zork. At Grozavoy. Yeah, so even in COTS, we saw Delny being used as a replacement for when the French were banned. You would see Delnys being run instead. So they're probably going, oh, well, these ships are fine then.
Well, we'll see how much these changes help out. I don't know how many players it'll attract to try out the line again, but we'll see. The most commonly people will take heal, but given that there is a lot of Libertad spam and secondary battleships on the rise, as you can see, a lot of people trying out the smoke Delny just to deal with them.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Libertas are... All the secondary ships that are out now, like the Liberta, Schlieffen, there's just so many really strong secondary ships. And your firing ranges are always right around those secondary ranges. So being able to be in smoke and farm will help out your ability to actually put pressure on those battleships.
So, and then the last thing I want to cover is the Ognavoy. To note, Grozavoy and Udaloy did not get changed, so only the Ognavoy was specifically mentioned in the devblog. And Wargaming changed their stats to fit more in line with the Grozavoy sub-branch. The Grozavoy line is right now kind of a hodgepodge mixture. Ognavoy being a torpedo boat, Udaloy being kind of a long-range gunboat, and then Grozavoy being kind of like the proper hybrid standard destroyer.
Yeah.
So Ognavoy has been changed to fit more of like what Grozavoy is supposed to do, but at tier 8. So the specific changes made is main battery reload time being reduced to 3.8 seconds, down from 5. So that is over a 20% DPM buff.
That's really good.
That's a massive increase. But to compensate, the torpedo range has decreased from 10 to 8.
Mm. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that 2 kilometer range may not sound like much, but that's a big nerf.
That is especially when Ognavoy can see tier 9 and tier 10.
hmm
So,
If you're fighting a radar cruiser, if you're fighting something like a Moskva, just don't. You effectively don't even have torps.
yeah, you don't even want to get near that thing because with how long the radar is, you'll be in a lot of trouble.
Mhm. Overall, I think this change is fine for Ognavoy. It definitely, like, if you played Ognavoy like a torpedo boat, you definitely are not gonna like the Ognavoy after this. But for most players that see Ognavoy as a stepping stone to Cruiservoy, the playstyle is now changed to be more in line with how the branch is supposed to be played, which I think is a great change.
Yeah, I am really happy with these changes. So I'm glad Ognavoy got some love with fixing, like with its playstyle being more matching of the Grozavoy. That is really nice.
Yep.
Now, speaking of the Russian text tree line changes, let's also talk about the other change they did. They also changed the Leningrad. So Leningrad is getting a torpedo reload booster added to its consumables. What do you think of that one, SAT?
So I actually talked a little bit on stream as well. Initially, I thought it was a weird change because Leningrad has always been seen as a gunboat, just kind of essentially an upgraded Minsk. But with a torpedo reload, I was initially confused because it's a gunboat. Why did we add torpedo reload booster to it?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the overall scope, so the Minsk herself, I mean the torpedoes got buffed to I think 6 or 7 kilometers, 7 kilometers,
Yeah, 7.
whereas Leningrad, the guns didn't change at all, but instead got a torpedo reload booster.
Yep.
So I was thinking maybe Wargaming is trying to differentiate the two ships. Because, as I said before, Leningrad beforehand was just seen as a superior version of Minsk.
Mm-hmm.
But with these changes, Wargaming is trying to push them into like different kind of roles or specialties. So both of them will still be really good gunboats. Minsk will have the option to mount repair party, whereas the Leningrad, the Leningrad gets the torpedo reload to kind of make it as a kind of a high DPM ship, one that can threaten you with both the guns and the torpedoes.
Yeah, that's really nice for sure. It is nice seeing the Leningrad get some love. Because
There is a critical difference here, though. So Minsk got her main battery turret traverse buffed, but Leningrad didn't. Leningrad, I think, is stuck at 30. Let me double check.
it's like 27.7.
That is horrible turret traverse. Hold on.
Yeah, that's really bad for tier 7.
Turret traverse is 27.7 seconds base.
Mm-hmm.
So most importantly, that did not get changed. So Leningrad is going to be pretty painful to play as a pure gunboat just because you literally cannot turn your turrets. It sounds like instead of trying to buff it, Wargaming is trying the alternative route and kind of pushing Leningrad to have better torps instead. I can see where they're going, but I would prefer them to change Leningrad in some other way, because that 27.7 second traverse is painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. But we will have to see. Now, these changes are supposed to be going into patch 14.3, so that will be in April. So we'll have to see how they go into the actual game. If you guys want to test out these changes yourself, you can play on the public test server during the time that is up, so you guys can check that out. But thank you, SAT Script, for your help today in today's video. I do greatly appreciate it. If you guys have any comments or questions or concerns, let us know in the comments or start a discussion on how you guys like these changes if you don't. But I do appreciate y'all watching, and I will talk to y'all in the next video.